What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Comic Source. My name is Billy, and today we're going to be talking about Falcon and Winter Soldier Episode 2. So the intro to this episode introduces us a little bit more into John Walker. We see him in the high school locker room that he used to play in, and of course his girl comes up, and they start talking about old times, just giving a little bit of detail into his character. And then of course that's when we meet Lamar Hoskins, who in the comics is Battlestar. Of course, he takes that name up in the show as well. In the comics, he's basically John Walker's version of Bucky. He even takes up the mantle of the name Bucky at one point and wears basically the same costume as him. And it says in his description that they subjected themselves, by they I mean John Walker and Lamar, to the Power Brokers treatment. Basically, his abilities in the comics are super soldier-esque. Which brings us to the Good Morning America that John Walker is on, where we learn that he's a 3-time Medal of Honor, working in counterterrorism and hostage rescue. His body was studied at MIT, but the big part is that he is all of this without the serum. But this whole conversation brings to the point of why he's not the correct Captain America, not even close. Because A, as we know from Captain America the First Avenger, the shield is supposed to go to
not a perfect soldier, but a good man.
And this entire description of him just outlines him as a good soldier. Nothing about him shows that he's a good man. And then, of course, on top of all of that, he just limits the entirety of the shield's worth and value to the country and to the world at large into guts, which is no. And then that's when we get to see that Bucky is pissed by this, rightfully so. Which brings us into the hangar, which is the intro to the feud between Bucky and Sam, where Bucky is pissed off at Sam because Sam just gave up the shield so easily. And then, of course, Sam does not feel that he deserves the shield because, the first thing he said was that it feels like it's somebody else's. And overall, he probably feels that Steve is the only person that should be able to carry the shield, not him or anybody else. And then we get my favorite joke in the show so far, where Bucky says that he did read The Hobbit in 1937 when it came out, which reminded me of Captain America Winter Soldier, where Black Widow and Captain America had this exchange.
Shall we play a game? It's from a movie that was really popular.
I saw it.
And then right after that, we get an even better joke, in my opinion, where Bucky says, "I don't need one," comparing himself to Steve, which of course throws it back to the Winter Soldier again, when Captain America didn't need a parachute when he was jumping onto the Lemurian Star. And then we get the whole drop of him flying to the ground, and then Sam, of course, recorded it. And then that leads us into them scouting out the Flag Smashers in the warehouse, which kind of felt odd to me. I feel like in that empty warehouse where they were standing behind what looked like to be a pretty much empty shelf, I feel like they would have been seen. Like, it just looked awkwardly framed to me. And then that brings us to the truck action sequence, where it's a little bit clunky, just based off of the part where Bucky is being held captive and they still have time to talk in between the fight. And it just felt odd to me. But that's just the nitty gritty. And then, of course, John and Lamar show up to try and save them. And of course, none of us like him, but in this scene, John Walker does do pretty well with the shield. Obviously, he's very accurate, and of course, we have that one exchange where Bucky stops the shield midair and then gives it to him. And then a good move to save Lamar as he was falling off the truck, which I've never seen the shield used in that specific way before. But of course, all 4 of them get their ass handed to them, which leads us to the Jeep conversation between Sam and Bucky and Lamar and John. And first and foremost, I just want to say that John does not deserve to call him Bucky at all whatsoever. And also, having a special helmet to stop a grenade completely takes away from the point why Steve jumped on the grenade in the first place. And then, of course, we knew this from earlier in the episode, but now we get complete confirmation that the Flag Smashers are super soldiers. They've been imbued with the serum. And we learn about the GRC, the Global Repatriation Council, who it seems like their job is just to get everything back to normal. But I wonder if that's going to influence any sort of villainy later down the line of, corrupt officials working in the GRC or anything like that. And then we get a scene that just kind of highlights the amount of respect that the Flag Smashers have from the people that feel the same way that they do. That the people that never left were ignored by everybody, and the people that came back are the top priority, rather than saving the people that have had to fight and claw and scratch to be able to stay alive for those 5 years. And then that's when we get confirmation on Carly Morgenthau's name, which is an adaptation from the comics. The Flag Smasher, like an individual hero, his name is Carl Morgenthau. So instead of it just being one individual person, they turned it into a group led by Carly Morgenthau. And then that fast forwards us to the plane where Bucky and Sam are having a conversation that just gives us a little history lesson on Civil War, where Bucky wants to go steal the shield. The last time that happened, they were on the run for a couple years. And then Bucky says that we have somebody to meet, which takes us into Isaiah Bradley, who I feel is a very important character that, just like everybody else, I didn't really know about him before this show, but just like he explained in the show, in the comics, Isaiah Bradley was one of 300 African American soldiers that were taken out of World War II and subjected to the super soldier serum. And then something happened that left the Captain America mantle up for grabs. Somebody needed to take that mantle in order to obviously be the hero that the country and the world needs. Isaiah Bradley took up that mantle, and they put him in life in prison for that. And he ended up only serving 17 years, but still. The government chose him for a test that turned him into a hero, and then when he decided to use that heroism for good, they put him in prison. For reasons that you know why. But in the MCU, him and Bucky had a little skirmish in Goyang, Korea, where he said that he took half of his arm. Where Isaiah said that he took half of Bucky's arm. Which I really hope that we get a flashback of this, because that would be the coolest thing I've ever seen. To have a different Captain America that we've never seen before fighting a prime Winter Soldier, that just sounds like a lot of fun to me. And then of course he barely has any lines or any actual direction towards him. But his son, Josiah, is actually a superhero in the comics as well. Who he does have super soldier-like powers. And he goes by the name of Justice. And I've just learned that he was actually a part of the Black Panther Party. Not the Black Panther hero from Wakanda, but the actual political party that was so influential in our country and obviously influenced the dyad between Professor X and Magneto. Obviously the comparison is Magneto is more like Malcolm X, and then Professor X is more like Martin Luther King. And then I feel they probably introduced this just so that they could have some tangible tie-in to where they're going to be able to get the super soldier serum for the Flag Smashers. And then of course Bucky gets arrested. And I do like this scene because it does highlight things that do happen in real life, and I understand why somebody could say that it's forced, but if you do have the opinion that it's forced, tell me where do you think that it actually would fit in better than this? I don't think that there's any way for that type of scene to not feel forced because it's right in front of your face. But these are things that do happen. Overall, I do feel that that scene worked. And then of course this brings Bucky and Sam together where they can do the therapy as more of a couples counseling. And when they show up in the precinct, you can see that John is already enjoying his powers. And by his powers, obviously I don't mean strength because he doesn't have the serum yet. I'm talking about his political powers, where he said that he is the government and he just kind of walked in, gave a few orders, and then was just ready to go. Just another reason why he is not Captain America. But in the couples counseling scene, we see Sebastian Stan and Anthony Mackie go straight from more of a comedic performance, straight to heartfelt serious. Where Bucky says that if he was wrong about you, then he was wrong about me. And that kind of just highlights the whole dilemma that Bucky is having internally right now. Because even though it wasn't his fault, so to speak, everything that he did with the Winter Soldier, he's still riddled with guilt. And then of course when they leave to go start their mission, Bucky says, what was rule number 2 again? Which was slightly corny in my opinion, but fuck it. And then of course we get the scene where Walker says, well, if you're not going to help me, stay the hell out of my way. Just more confirmation that he's going to be a dick in this series. And then we get a scene of the Flag Smashers stealing supplies, which I think was really important because they show a sacrifice, just showing how committed they are to this. And then of course Bucky says that he wants to go see Zemo, which is really dangerous. And I'm really curious to see whether or not he's going to try and activate Bucky like he did before.
Желание, żawoy, 12, rozwiedź, wiedź, nie wiedź. Dobre kacze w tej, zatwarszenie na rojno, a dziś, grozowy wagon.
But we all know that Bucky can't be controlled like that anymore. But this episode was really good. I'm really liking how this series is going so far. I feel like it's going to start kicking up a lot next episode. Let me know what you guys thought in the comments down below. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed. See you next week. Peace.